such a genuine gem. Thank you for clicking on my video. I'm Brooke Makenna, but today's case is about a woman locked in a tower and thrown off the 15th floor balcony. The story is the opposite of a fairy tale, yet the villain was very good at pretending to be the hero. Our victim wasn't just a damsel in distress either. She was a fighter, a girl determined to be a survivor. Unfortunately, it was too late for her. And now her family wants to share her story to save all of the other fighters of the world. I also want to thank our sponsor, which is Mixtiles, and it is the perfect way to decorate your home or your apartment, especially if you're one who likes to change around the decor or where things are in your apartment just to get a new fresh style in there. Now with Mixtiles, you can actually upload any photo that you want, and then you get to choose the frame style from there, and then they just ship to you for free. And when they arrive, you can actually choose where you want to put them and take the adhesive strip off and simply stick to your wall without any damage to it. There won't be any residue when you take it off. In fact, you can take it off immediately, you can move it to another place, and you will see that there is nothing left on your wall. There's no damage from screws, from nails, anything. And it's so incredible to, especially with me living in an apartment, to be able to move things around and not have to worry about my deposit later on. Mixtiles also come at a very affordable price. After getting it for myself, I'm absolutely going to be getting it for my family. I'm thinking even for Mother's Day for my mom. I think that would be such a good gift. But if you would like to decorate your home with no pressure of keeping that there forever, then click the link in my description or use the promo code BROOKE25 for 25% off if you're buying more than $50. This is actually valid until May 31st of 2022, or you can scan the QR code on the screen. And thank you to Mixtiles for sponsoring this portion of the video. Now let's get back to this story. It was 2010 in Australia, and 29-year-old Lisa Harnham lived in Sydney. She was actually working at an Australian hair and beauty college, but she had grown up in Toronto, Canada, raised by her single mother, Joan. She was said to be a sweet, smart, kind kid who was very mature for her age. She loved playing football, doing karate, as well as dancing. She worked very hard even when she was younger, and her first job was in a fragrance department, while she was also competing in dance competitions for tap, jazz, and ballet. Lisa wasn't a drinker, nor did she do drugs. She was very focused, and even when she went out partying with friends, she would come home completely sober, telling her mom every single detail. She had gone to Australia from Toronto 5 years prior, and she still had very few friends and definitely no family in the area. It was a very hard transition for her at first, but her family knew that she would thrive wherever she was. Joan had also gone to help her settle in when she had first moved there. But Lisa was this extrovert who was always happy, always dancing. She had so much confidence and energy that radiated from her. She also knew how to dress up and look good with her hair and makeup done, and she loved life and would end up adoring Australia and be able to find ways to fit in her own ways. When her work visa did expire, which was only for 12 months long, she got a job at this local college where she would be able to learn more about hair and makeup and fashion that she was already talented at. And this was actually accepted by the Australian authorities for Lisa being allowed to stay for longer. And knowing she didn't yet have to head back to Toronto, she had begun looking for a new apartment, a new place to live, and especially a roommate to help her afford all of this. She actually found one in a man that she had met through her boyfriend at the time. She believed he was a gay man named Simon Gitney who had offered his spare room, and she planned to stay until she found something different. A year later, in 2011, she was still residing in the same apartment, but she no longer had her job. And on July 30th, a Saturday morning, the residents would find her body on the ground outside of that apartment. It was at an apartment called The Hyde, and it appeared as though she had jumped from her balcony, but she was still holding her handbag. Residents were trying to save her life, but it was too late once anybody got there, and the police arrived, and her roommate Simon was there next to her, and Simon told them that she had become hysterical, that she was leaning over the balcony, and suddenly she started falling and he couldn't reach her and save her. Since Lisa didn't have very many friends or family in Australia, investigators were finding it very hard to locate people other than, of course, Simon, who knew much about her and her mental state of mind at this time. Eventually, they found a woman named Michelle Richmond. She was Lisa's counselor and life coach, and they had actually found her through Lisa's mother, Joan, who was thousands of miles away. But of course, investigators had to contact Lisa's family about her death and the fact that they believed that this was a suicide, and Joan had much to say. First, she demanded that they contact Michelle Richmond, saying that she had the details for her, that her daughter Lisa had been talking to her that morning and had given her the details of her counselor, and Lisa had said to contact Michelle if anything happened to her. It turned out that Lisa had been seeing Michelle for the past 3 weeks. She had been struggling with eating disorders and didn't want her fiancé to know. She had been struggling with these eating disorders for a very long time, since she was a child, but if you caught that, she didn't want her fiancé to know. Who was her fiancé? Well, that turned out to be her roommate, Simon Gitney, who was not gay. He was actually a shoe importer who wore expensive suits. He liked flashy things, but he enjoyed women. And Lisa and the man that she was living with would get into a relationship 2 months after they started living together. They were said to share the same sense of humor and were always making each other laugh. A month prior to her death, a little over a year of them actually dating, Simon proposed and she said yes. But Lisa's fiancé wasn't in custody at the time. He was not believed to have anything to do with this. He was working with investigators, and he told them that Lisa was actually quite unstable at this time and took her own life that day. His fingerprints were not found on the balcony either, and investigators believed that it was an unfortunate death at the hands of a suicidal woman. Except as the autopsy began, her clothes were removed, and that is when they found a piece of torn up paper in one of her pockets. And when they put it back together, it read, "There are surveillance cameras inside and outside the house." That seemed as though it could have been from a very paranoid woman losing her mind or a scared woman in danger. So investigators went to her 15th floor apartment to find out the truth. And it turned out she wasn't seeing or imagining anything. There were cameras everywhere. Lisa was being watched in every inch of her home. It was found to be a program called Moby Stealth, which was suggested to help women who were in the danger of a stalker. This added a whole new element to this case. Did Lisa believe that she had a stalker? Why did she write this letter of these cameras being in as though she didn't put them there herself? Who put them there then? Well, then a witness came forward who was from just next door. This was Susan Glanville, who claimed to have heard someone bang on her apartment door that morning, screaming as though they were afraid. The door was shaking with the bangs, and before she could get to it, the banging stopped and a man yelled, and then there was silence. She decided it wasn't safe to open the door alone at this point, and so she stayed inside. But then she heard a woman screaming from farther away, "Help me, help me, God help me." Not long after, the sirens ran out and Lisa was on the ground. Investigators thankfully then began to question, is this really a simple suicide? And another witness informed police that he was actually beneath the high that morning and saw a man screaming, and he was shirtless, and it appeared as though he was throwing over something dark like luggage over the side of the balcony. This man didn't stop. He was on his way to work. He had to keep going, and he then realized when a body had been found that that wasn't luggage. He just thought that this was maybe a deranged junkie on a bender, but realized he may have witnessed a murder. While some investigators were putting together the real story of what happened that day, others were going through the different computers and phones that Lisa had access to. And oddly enough, both had spyware installed on it and allowed for someone else to be tracking the location, listening to the calls, reading the text, and it appeared as though she could have actually had a stalker. But why would there be these cameras all over the apartment that they could not find that she had access to? The cameras were then found to be connected to her fiance's computer. While they tried to uncover those files, CCTV footage was obtained from the hide and from that morning, and this was enough to sicken authorities. There was 69 seconds before Lisa fell to her death, and Lisa was running to the elevator when Simon ran up behind her, grabbed her by her mouth and her neck, and drug her back. She appeared to be completely terrified as she broke free, went to her apartment neighbor, was banging on the door, didn't get an answer, and was drugged back into their apartment. Simon was asked about this, and he said that she was acting unstable, and he drug her back for her own safety. Once they were back inside the apartment, he was making her a hot drink, and she ran for the balcony and headed over before he could do anything to stop it. He didn't explain why, though. He had installed so many cameras in their place, yet it never captured any of that 69 seconds before Lisa died. After she had plunged to the ground, Simon was seen hurrying out of the apartment before heading back in for 33 seconds and then heading back out, putting on his shirt, going to the elevator and heading downstairs. During this time, he was also wearing striped pajamas, and he slaps his head and then he crouches down into his knees. When the elevator stops on the ground floor, he runs into the foyer and onto the street where Lisa is lying deceased. He does eventually walk back inside with an unknown person and put his hands on his head before walking back outside with Lisa. It turned out that eating disorders were not the only thing that Lisa was talking to Michelle about and getting help for. She'd also spoken to her in private about that she could only wear certain clothes, do her hair a certain way, and she felt like she had no control. Even Michelle, her counselor, had been chosen for her by Simon, as well as her personal trainer who worked in the building, and they had to do private sessions so no men could see her work out. A year into their relationship, Lisa Harnum was not allowed to leave their apartment at the Hyde, except for to go and get groceries and to see these two women. She was asked to quit her job and was forced to stay in this high-rise tower alone. Simon really didn't give her much of a choice, though. He went into her job, caused a scene, and then forced her to quit. He said that she needed to look for a better class of people to be around. Now, her family had started to realize that Simon was controlling pretty early on, but there was nothing that they could do from so far away. In fact, Lisa had once visited Canada for a wedding. This was at the beginning of their relationship, but she was not allowed to go to parties or go see her friends, and she was also holding a brand new phone. Her family knew that something was wrong when her phone continued to ring 24/7, and Simon expected her to pick up every single call. She would get very panicky if she didn't answer that call as well, and her cousin even invited her via Facebook to a party, and she freaked out and frantically messaged her to uninvite her because she was not allowed to go to parties. She admitted to them that Simon watched and read everything on Facebook, and she didn't even know at that time that he was also tracking and observing everything she did on that phone that he had gotten her. Her friends told her he looked like he was 50, she could get someone better, but she didn't agree, and this was a troubling beginning to a relationship. But it would only get worse. Texts were found between the two of them, with Simon saying things like, "I hope you dressed appropriately today, LOL." There was also a phone call that was recorded between Simon and Lisa, where Lisa was telling him that she didn't want him to go and leave her all alone. He was saying that he was going to spend one night a week with his male friends, and Lisa said that he was out with the boys every single night, and Simon was getting mad, saying, "Are you serious?" And Lisa was telling him that basically she always gives him the space that he wants whenever he wants it. And she said, "I don't go anywhere. I wait at home for you. I don't do anything other than what you tell me to do. I don't have anything here except for you. I don't talk. I don't speak. I miss my mom. Simon then responds with, I said once a week, baby. Don't take it to the extremes. I love you, Bubba. We hang out all the time. Now, after this, Lisa really stopped wearing those fancy clothes and dressing up like she loved to do, and she started avoiding the friends that she had made in Australia. And those who knew her in Australia said that her confidence was gone. She was like a completely different person, seemingly under the control of Simon. 8 months before Lisa's death, she had actually gone back to Canada alone for Christmas. Now, her entire family was taken aback when she walked in. She was dressed very plainly. She had no makeup on. Her hair was pulled back, and she appeared and acted timid. Yet no one, even in her family, could get through to her that she deserved better and that this was a bad situation. They begged her not to go back to Australia, that they could help her, but she didn't want to hear it. She headed back to Australia after a short visit because she was reading messages from Simon like, please don't let any guy talk to you today, and please don't look at any guys, as your eyes should only gaze on me, the one. Her family was horrified when Lisa called a month prior to her death on her birthday and told them that she was engaged to Simon. She also then began telling them that she was really saddened because no one had reached out to her to say happy birthday yet. And her mother and brother both said, what in the world do you mean? Everybody has been texting you. You haven't responded to one person. It was believed that Simon had gone in and deleted everything before she could see it. This wasn't the first time either, because Lisa had noticed that her friends started disappearing off of Facebook and her emails from men would be completely deleted. She was being isolated, and this was the first time that she really had proof, or she thought she had proof, that that was what was happening. That was when she began to talk to the only people she was really allowed to in Australia, her personal trainer and her counselor. And Lisa confided in them that she was unhappy and wanted to leave but didn't know how, and she knew that marrying Simon would make her an Australian citizen. She also told them that there were some really good times during the relationship and she felt like they could get back to that. But she explained that mostly she wasn't leaving him because he would be broken without her and he would act like it destroyed him to keep control over her. And she even knew that. But she knew that she would also apologize and be the one to make up with him. Both of these women listened to Lisa and immediately wanted to help her get away. They said that they would do anything to help her and they needed her to leave him. And so the first step would be to slowly be grabbing clothes and putting them into storage. And Lisa was hopeful for the first time in a very long time. Except with Simon controlling every part of her life, he would know what she was doing. He was constantly watching her on the cameras, and he quickly realized what she was up to. Now, Lisa hated arguing with him, and so when he came at her, asking her what was going on, she immediately told him the truth. And after this, the personal trainer and counselor both received texts from Lisa saying that she didn't want to hear from them ever again. And they both knew that this was not Lisa texting them, and they began to worry about her even more. Meanwhile, when Lisa was alone in the apartment, she snuck onto Simon's computer and tried to find out how he knew everything when he was even away. And that's when she found the spyware on her phone and her computer. She changed the passwords that night. She called her mother to say that she was booking a flight and would be home the next day. Her mother told her, grab your passport and your purse and just get out, nothing else. And the next morning, Simon asked Lisa why the passwords were changed. He had figured it out, and Lisa admitted to him that she did not trust him and was going home. Now, Simon was believed to be getting angry, and Lisa ran to the bathroom, which had a house phone in there, and she picked it up and she called her mom. She told her mom, Mommy, I just want you to know that I love you and Jason with all my heart. Her mother was asking her why she was saying this, what was wrong, and she whispered that Simon was outside the door. And that's when she told her mother about Michelle Richmond, her counselor, and told her how to contact her. And her mother was saying, what the hell is going on? Tell me. And Lisa told her it was okay, that she would call her soon and hopefully see her soon. She wouldn't though, because her body would land at the bottom of the 15th floor of the Hyde, thrown from 15 floors above. She was trying to leave that day knowing what she had to do to survive and what she deserved. She had woken up from this abuse, from this gaslighting manipulation, but Simon was not going to allow that. Canadian authorities showed up at Lisa's mother's door that morning, and she met them in the hallway saying, "He killed her. He killed her." She thought it would be Lisa at her door, not the police telling her that her daughter was dead. Simon Gitney was finally charged with Lisa's murder but was granted bail while awaiting trial. He was pleading not guilty and was then granted a judge-only trial after claiming that he ran out of money for a defense. His family said that they had already spent $200,000 on legal fees. Simon's past was then uncovered for the trial, and it was found he had a criminal record and had been sentenced to prison before. Once when he was in his 20s and had stolen goods and served time, and then he was later sentenced to drug charges because he had been a cocaine dealer who was found to run a secret drug laboratory. But he had also been arrested for biting off part of a police officer's ear. It was believed that Simon was two different people to his family and outsiders. Simon actually arrived at the trial for murdering his girlfriend with a new girlfriend in hand, Rochelle Welcome. She was the one paying for their rent at the time because he was broke, and she testified that he was the best boyfriend she ever had. He was romantic, so caring, and she would stand by him until justice was served. Her and her father also had spent $170,000 on this case for him. Counselor Michelle Richmond said that the first time she met the couple, Simon snapped at her that they had to wait for 5 minutes. And she said the only reason Simon allowed Lisa to see a counselor was because he didn't know that she was one. Lisa's personal trainer had referred her to Michelle, claiming that she was going to treat Lisa for her injuries from ballet. Now, her personal trainer, Lisa Brown, said that she was not allowed to work out at a public gym due to the male attention. Michelle said that Lisa had confided in her that the night of the engagement she was in a room full of Simon's friends, and he had said that he had finally found the one to serve him. When she was starting to plan the wedding, she had something to look forward to. Simon told her that he would let her know when the planning began, and she needed to just shut up. Every time she tried to argue back with anything Simon said, he would tell her that he could have her visa canceled and her deported. Lisa's mother said when Lisa would say that she needed her family, she always said, "I will come right then. I just have to ask my employer for time off." And then Lisa always would assure her that she could handle it. Joan, though, did get the go-ahead by her employer to be able to go to Australia to see Lisa because Lisa was actually begging to go to the skating rink she could see from her apartment at the Hyde but was not allowed to go to since she wasn't allowed to leave. And so Joan said, "I bought our tickets to the skating rink and I'm going to come and we're going to go together." She would have been there a week after her death. The prosecution claimed that Simon was controlling, abusive, and dominating, as well as insanely jealous of other men. The defense claimed that it was a dysfunctional but loving relationship and used a letter from Lisa to Simon to prove this. It read, "Like the lion watches over his cubs, cares for them, protects them, keeps them safe from harm's way, loves them unconditionally, and teaches them strength and courage, picks them up when they fall, always by their side. You are my lion, Simon, my rock, my everything." The prosecution claimed, though, that this was a fight every day in her mind between loving a man and fighting for her life. A surprise witness came forward to say that Lisa once told her that Simon said he would kill her if she left him and make it look like a suicide. She said that Lisa feared that he would even poison her food, but Simon showed a lack of remorse in court about the murder. Yet when this witness spoke for the first time, he said something. He actually muttered, "That's unbelievable." Then Simon himself took the stand. He denied threatening to kill Lisa, tracking her, and killing her. He said, "It is a tough thing to deal with. I am charged with a crime I did not commit. It is a cross almost unbearable to hear. I maintain my innocence. I would never kill Lisa Harnum. I would never kill anybody." Justice Lucy McCallum said Simon lied with such ease and distorted the truth to make the woman he murdered look bad. On November 27, 2013, she found Simon guilty of murdering Lisa in an uncontrollable rage.
There's no winners in this case. Two families have had their lives dramatically changed forever. We will always mourn the loss of our beautiful Lisa Cecilia and are working towards making her legacy a powerful wake-up call to young women and to parents, siblings, and friends of these young women to be aware of the warning signs of a controlling relationship and take a proactive approach to assisting them. My daughter used to say, people can ask for help, but children and animals cannot. And now young women who are caught up in situations like my daughter found herself in need a voice as well. It was a fair trial, and the judge had a very difficult decision to make. I respect her judgment and the conclusion, and that's all I have to say, other than my daughter's favorite saying was, families are forever. Please go home and hug your kids and hug your wife and your husband and make it families forever for everyone. Thank you.
Simon's new girlfriend yelled out, "You're effing wrong." She then led a silent protest with signs of acquitted murderers' names on them. Now, a year later, Simon was sentenced to a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 26 years, and he has since been denied an appeal. He now resides in Parkley Prison, and at first this was on suicide watch, but now his life is controlled and watched every day, just as Lisa's was by him. Now, it was a known thing that Lisa enjoyed being in relationships, especially with older men who would take care of her due to her mother's struggle with being a single mother. And a prior boyfriend of hers was 20 years older and would take her traveling. They ended up being engaged, and then they broke things off. And her next boyfriend was also older and charming, but was a married man. Then came Simon Gitney. And still, Lisa was a woman who no one would have pegged to be in a domestic violence situation. She was strong. She was confident. She didn't deserve this. But abusers can manipulate and control anyone before they're even aware of what is happening. Joan, her mother, has said, pay attention. If you see changes like they're dressing differently or losing contact with their friends, you've got to start asking the right questions. And if you really think it's that bad, step in. That's the message we're trying to get out here. It's never too late to interfere. Now, Joan has actually started the Lisa Harnum Foundation for all families to live in safety, free from fear, and free from domestic violence. Their website allows you to show support, or it also provides support for anybody as well. There's also a huge button at the top where you can immediately close it if you're in danger of somebody seeing what you are looking at. I will also leave domestic hotline numbers below, and remember, this is the sign if you need help for anyone to see. If you are out in public, if this is the only thing that you can do, if you cannot say anything, palm up, thumb in, fingers over. That is your sign for help. And if you are not one who needs help, make sure you know this sign and you also teach everybody else, because it could save a life. Lisa almost escaped. She almost survived. But we need to help women who are in her situation as well get out in her honor. The 25-year-old Rochelle Welcome, Simon's girlfriend, has now become his ex. She has said they're still friends, they talk every day, but it's difficult to be with someone who is in jail. She has since changed her name and graduated from Rosebank College working as an IT project manager, but she claimed that her name change isn't even because of Simon, but a bank colleague relationship that ended badly. She is now studying law to be a criminal barrister, but she claimed that during the trial with Simon, the newspaper, the Daily Telegraph, was calling her things like a prostitute and a stripper, and she's sued for defamation. She's said to be ecstatic with the result, but we don't know how much she actually won. But after this, she was still talking about Simon's trial, and she was speaking, saying that the judge who tried him, found him guilty, was divorced and had men issues, which is why she found him guilty. She also claimed that Simon would stop her from leaving her apartment, stood at the door, but she would just tell him that she was going and she would leave, as though it was Lisa's fault she didn't get away. Rochelle still does not believe that he killed Lisa. She said, "This is the first hurdle of many. Now that I have cleared my name, I can clear Simon's." Now, I find it heartbreaking to pose the question, did Simon kill Lisa? There is so much evidence, so much abuse, those haunting last moments that were captured on video. And I just don't think asking those questions is necessary. So what I would like, instead of answering a question, is for you to leave something below that you learned from Lisa. Also, what you learned about her, because I think that that's a wonderful way to let her light shine. Now, oddly enough, there was a strangely identical case the same year in 2011 in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and this is actually a case I've covered on my channel. This is about Amber Hilberling, who was charged with pushing her husband Josh out of the 25th floor window while pregnant with his baby. It has many similarities to this case, but many question if Amber really pushed him on purpose or not. I will have that linked down below if you would like to explore that for yourself. But don't forget to speak up. Your voice is powerful enough, and I love you to absolute pieces. Remember to get mixed tiles for 25% off. Okay, bye.